Boy, you want to know them? And then sometimes you really just don't get lucky at all. You just don't get lucky
Hillary to
at
be president or
all.
some just unhinged.
You don't get lucky at all. You for some reason this Blender app will just crash your fucking stream. It'll just kill it. It'll put it right in the dirt. It will push it down into the earth and not let it come back out. Well, actually, to let it come back out, but still, I need more light in my room. All right, got a little more light.
Shit.
We're in the
Like
clear
again, I
here.
don't necessarily think anybody deserves to die or anything for political stuff, but even when I just said right there, like for political stuff, like what is just political stuff to some people is
Goodness
a
gracious.
deportation for another person, or an unjust incarceration for another person, or the deprivation of material or economic conditions for another person, or the ability to do scientific research, or to administer a vaccine, or
We got
to study in this
ourselves.
country, or to trade in a way that keeps your business working abroad. Like all of those types of violence just
Start
fly
rolling
completely
there.
under the radar. And then when there's like one visceral piece of violence, all of a sudden Republicans are running around searching for sympathy. And it's like, bro,
But don't you think we on the left should be like better than the people on the right? Like like that's our whole thing, like of like being on the left.
yeah, I
Is
think the
that
way you'd be better is just don't be the one that pulls the trigger. But I mean, you don't have to go out here and like endlessly appease people that are shitting on your side, that are celebrating violence on your side, that are clapping like retarded seals every time Ketamine Musk is, on Twitter tweeting out the next retarded fucking thing
Jesus
about some judge. Like,
Christ.
no, I don't think there has to be any obligation. Like, Dave Rubin could have made me look really bad, I think, on the Piers Morgan show if he would have just admitted, like, yeah, the J6 stuff was really bad, but he couldn't even do that. It's like, no,
that's
fuck, why the fuck you coming to me for sympathy? Like, fuck you. Like, you made your bed, lay in it, yeah.
I guess I see what you mean there, but I mean, like, again, like even like my dad, he's a big fan of Pierce Morgan, and he watched that show and he had no idea who you were, and he literally thought you were unhinged. And I was trying to tell my dad, like, Dad, no, like, I'm a big fan of this guy. Like, he's a good guy. Like, don't he's a good guy. Like, you gotta believe me. Like, but like I'm telling you, like these normies, they'll see that, and a lot of people do watch these like hour-long like segments, and
I think
that's
at
where they
some
get their
point it
views.
sounds like really shitty, but then um, at some point you have to ask like, what is a culture worth saving? Like, I don't know if I cared to appeal as much to a guy who thinks that like my comment is unhinged, who can turn a blind eye to all of the other people that are being harmed in very real ways by the ongoing administration, and people that they want to harm, and the people that all the other influencers are clapping to be harmed. Like at some point, like when I remember I got into a big fight with a friend over that same conversation, and they were like, I'm only telling you this because I know you can do better. And I asked them, I was like, how many of your conservative friends have you had this conversation with over any of the other things? Like, well, I don't talk to them. It's like, well, then fuck you. Don't ask me for this. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, yeah, no, like it's insane. Like, it's like everybody's asking us to be Jesus, except we don't come back alive after being dead for 3 days. Like, there's no point in playing that game where you give endless sympathy and charity to the other side, and then anytime something happens on our side, they think it's like an epic, hilarious meme that they control over. Like, this ridiculous.
I mean, like, but do you see those people that like on Pierce again, the Israel Palestine debate, and they'll ask them like, do you condemn the babies being beheaded, and they won't condemn like babies being like beheaded, and it's just like you're just like, just say it, like just say you condemn it,
Um,
like you don't think that it'll be a net positive if you do
I
say
mean,
it.
I would have to see the particular debate, but I mean, it really depends on what side of the debate you're on. Like, if I was arguing with like a deep West Bank settler and they were asking me to condemn violence on October 7th, I would just condemn the location. I wouldn't tell them that I think they have no right to be violent in any way, size, shape, or form. I would say I don't know why they were going after people in Israel instead of the West Bank, and that's what I would say. I wouldn't concede anything more to an unhinged person who's living miles into the West Bank. Much the same that if I was arguing with an unhinged pro-Hamas person, I'm not gonna concede that wow it's bad when civilians die or whatever, because these people that are looking for you can't have like a one-sided. You can't have these one-sided concessions. I don't understand. People don't seem to get that when you just get like one aspect of reality, you might get like a faker picture than what is actually real. Than if you had no information whatsoever, right? Like if you can imagine a prism or whatever. No, what's the thing that's like this, but it's long. A cylinder. I don't know why you fucking looked at blank.
They were confusing me. I was like, wait, what?
Sure. If you imagine a cylinder, right? If you look at a cylinder from one side, it's a perfect rectangle, and if you look at a cylinder from another side, it's from another dimension, it's a circle. Right. And somebody thinks that if they gather information about one of these things, they're like closer to the truth or they've done a good thing. Like that's not true. If one side is making concessions constantly, you're not a little bit better than if nobody had made concessions. You're better off with nobody making concessions than just one side. It's like it's a prisoner's dilemma thing of sorts. And if it is the case that maybe someday, if people on the left are so unhinged that they're not apologetic every single time something bad happens, maybe at some point a Republican will stand and be like, hey, maybe we should be less unhinged. But I have never, ever heard that type of self-reflection from the conservative movement ever. So if that would happen somewhere, I'd be curious about it, but
I haven't yet to seen it too. I get what you mean. I mean, I get it. But yeah, that was like my only question. I mean, I still disagree with you on there. I think you could just say like it's bad, but.
All right. Well, thank you, Shebeg. Thanks a lot. You can shake Justin's hand if you want.
Hey.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet. Nice and loud into the mic. Thank you.
You got it.
Well, I'm on the stage with Destiny. You are definitely the most OP champion on the Rift.
Okay, thanks. For sure. Okay, we got a PF Young fan. Okay. Try to pull your mic over a little bit to your side of you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
A little nervous.
You're good.
Yeah. Cool. Hey, man, well, actually, everybody really said kind of a lot of, especially last speaker. I really wanted to address on that because I really found out about you with the Tom Bilyeu.
Okay.
I guess how you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
impact there.
That gaming, yeah, that so I found out about that, and and you tend to say unhinged and brainwashed and kind of, and so a lot of what your last speaker was saying, our last speaker here, everybody did a great job.
We can edit off of
that
very
that
easily,
rhetoric, obviously, it's and what you had said about the firefighter, that was even to hear you talk just now in that moment, where I come from in rural Missouri, I don't see, the Trumps, they're not like that. So I guess I came here, really just traveled here from Missouri to say like, where, I mean, I guess when you are going after online trolls, I don't think that encompasses rural Republicans. And I've watched some of your stuff like with colleges, when you spoke with colleges, and I thought, man, I wish it would be like more education. And you're just so gifted. Wow, man. And you have the opportunity to, I guess, instead of shame, I don't know how to say it, but I guess what was your thought? What was your thought after the Tom conversation in general? Like that's where you just went off?
I feel like if people are upset at things that I say, maybe with some percentage of people, at the very least, I'm forcing a conversation on it, and maybe at some point conservatives can turn that mirror, onto themselves and do a little bit of reflecting. Because I've never heard any conservative give any ground whatsoever when it comes to analyzing any of the harms on their side. And they seem to be clapping for every single thing that this administration does while demanding that the left apologizes for every single thing the left does, even when it's not the left. So like, that's not that world is not sustainable, right? That is always a losing political world. Because nobody on the left gets any virtue for it. Do you think anybody remembers that that Biden and Kamala disavowed the BLM riots? So they said that rioting and violence is unacceptable? Because they did say that, but nobody cares. And Donald Trump went ahead and pardoned every single J6er after most conservative media said, well, maybe he just shouldn't pardon the violent ones. He pardoned all of them. Nobody cared. Republicans didn't say a single, there wasn't a word said about that. So if that's the game that we're playing, there is no, I don't believe there's a virtue in losing political power to try to uphold some other virtue. I just don't think that that's good. It's not
Okay.
like do you want to be like the I don't know. It's like being like the best swimmer on the Titanic. Like, who cares? Like, if the country is like literally sinking into the ocean on the backs of this insane, I would say, cult movement that exists right now on the right, and one of the concerns we have to talk about is whether or not the left is apologetic enough when someone on the right gets shot or whatever. Like, that's just not the conversation I think we should be having. I think,
Okay. So, okay, cool. I get. Okay. How about?
I think also, to be clear on my side, if I heard like a single, because I've asked, or even like one example, if I heard anybody on the right ever say that like,
Yeah.
this is probably too much, guys, we probably should pull this back a little bit, then I would feel probably a bit different. If a lot of people were saying, I feel significantly different. If there were a lot of people on the right who were like, when this is being said, this is kind of unhinged, we need to pull this back, but that's not it. It's always like, well, when Trump says it, it's a fucking joke, it's epic, it's hilarious. Dude, I can't even remember. People make a deal out of every fucking Biden like statement. Dude, how many times did we see that picture of the speech that Biden gave in 2017 or whatever, or 2021? Yeah,
Seems like
with
a
the red background. Yeah.
plan.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump on Easter is literally like a fucking drunk, uncle at Thanksgiving talking about the fucking Democrats, blah, 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 and it's like, what the fuck? And like, we're supposed to be the party of more decorum? Like, come on, I think that's insane.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
No, cool, dude. No. I just okay. On that note, talking like I'm working at daycare, so I just talk like this.
Sure.
So.
I'd like to do.
Okay. I don't see it. Okay. I think it's been like 3 months. I know Trump didn't do anything the first time. I know it's been 3 months. Or a little over 3 months, whatever. I think everybody in my town is fine. I don't think we're off like you just described. I don't see it like that where I come from. But I do see it online. Like, I totally get you, right? Like online, it's wild, man. Every world you live in, and you're the only man for the job, in my opinion. Wow. But
I think that we take for granted how awesome like the responsibility of voting is. Like, truly, every single election cycle, every single American in the United States has the ability to cast a ballot for who they want to be arguably the leader of the free world. And the idea that people just don't know or don't care about what's going on, like our system just can't function that way. It can't be if you live in a rural community and you're demanding all these concessions from the cities, or you're demanding all these concessions from Democrats, but you have no idea what Trump is up to. Like, that just doesn't work. Our system has to have some minimum level of informational buy-in. So, yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, if people aren't aware of any of the things that are happening, then
yeah, that I guess that's kind of why I say that when okay, I know how to kind of go. I do, knowing kind of your arc. I do wish. How do you feel then about the way you spin it? From what I've seen of your content, I haven't seen it all, man. I can't. But the way you spin it, you kind of, I feel like you spin it where you were gonna go with Lex and Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson. You weren't gonna, or like that. You went that route and you tried it, and then I got the vibe. It's like, well, I'm gonna go back to attack instead of build the bridge. And I felt like a lot of what I agreed with Tom so much in that interview with you. I mean, you both did great, obviously. But, dude, I was like, Tom, like, you're really trying to, like, get it. And for where I come from and where I sit, I guess, I don't know. I just, you're not going to build these bridges.
But the problem is these people started to view me as career opportunities rather than the night terror. Yeah. I think I should be to these people. The issue that I have is that, I don't like the fact that I sat with Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens, and I didn't give them 1/10 of the pushback that these people deserve, who are legitimately, again, and the problem is I keep saying this, but I don't think the right understands it, or they just don't care because it's epic and hilarious. Like, these people are destroying the fabric of this country in so many different ways. There's already been so much damage that's been done that we might never recover from, or will take like years and years to recover from. And the idea that when I would look at myself on these shows, right, the bridge that I was building, all of the comment sections were just like, oh, it's so cool that we can have conversations. Oh, we had conversations. Oh, okay, how about consider something from the conversation? Like, I don't want people to come away thinking like, yeah, I engaged with the left because I heard Destiny go on to Ben Shapiro's show, or with, talking with Ben Shapiro with Lex Friedman, where every single thing I said came true. Every single thing that Ben Shapiro said didn't come true. And I would say that Ben Shapiro is at least as smart as me. He's a very intelligent person, maybe even smarter. This guy's a Harvard grad. This guy's a super smart dude. This guy, he's not a dipshit.
Nobody's smarter than you, Destiny.
So why? Yeah. So I say this. Maybe he might even be that. So why is he giving me these? Why is he giving me answers like Trump might be a dictator, but at least we have guardrails for that? That's not an answer that any serious human being gives to a political figure. But I kind of like, for the sake of bridge building, accept it and move on. And that I don't want to be involved in that anymore. I don't want to give people the illusion that the problem is like normalizing a lot of this stuff too. Is it makes it seem like that's an acceptable thing to say, and it's not completely and totally unhinged.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Well, and hey, I mean, my wife didn't even like why are you going all that way for that guy? Like, I hate that guy. They just like, I don't know. I'd be like, I can't even share your content with somebody because they just look at you as like you're unhinged and you're the brainwashed one or something. I don't know.
sure.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe hopefully. There might be other people that are nicer or gentler or whatever, but the problem is that like that movement has gone so far off. I don't know. It's
Cool.
and there has to be some reciprocation, and there's none. There's no reciprocation on the other side. There is no desire whatsoever to understand anything about the left, to understand anything about themselves. We can just compare. Look at the fallout of the 2024 election. Every single Democrat news network, every single Democrat or liberal YouTube channel, guys, what do we do wrong? The Democrat Party has to reflect. What's going on? Like, what happened? What are we gonna do? Right? What was the outcome of the 2020 election? Well, we didn't even fucking lose, and we're gonna run the same fucking guy, and he's gonna be even more unhinged than he was last time. And they won. So like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, maybe that's the way to go. Maybe we should have dug Biden's fucking grandfather up from the grave and ran him as a fucking candidate. I don't know. It seems to be like, that just seems to be the way to go. But when you have a side that is like doubling and tripling and quadrupling down like that, like, imagine, I don't know how old you are, but like, imagine like 20, 30, 40 years from now, you're answering
Oh, I almost hit the
questions
button again.
to a grandchild, and they're like,
crash
oh,
me.
wow, so
No,
Donald
don't.
Trump was president. He got
Render
impeached
it.
twice. That's crazy. He got impeached
you
in both of his
fucking
terms. Like, he got impeached twice the first term. Oh. And he got reelected? That's pretty crazy. Why did he have a different vice president the second time? Well, he tried to get his first one killed. Oh, okay. Well, that's insane. There are so many insane things like that are just like a normal part of the American fabric now. And I think it's deeply troubling and damaging and not good. But
I'm so glad that you shared it with me, man. Really, I am. That means a lot. I'm happy you're doing this. This is actually the kind of thing that, I mean, my school's watching, my family's watching back home. This is a chance. You're giving the opportunity to share, and I appreciate it, man. You reaching out and doing something like this with just me. This is why you're the
How
greatest,
about-
Destiny. Thank you.
oh, thanks a lot.
All right, thanks, Timothy.
Hey, how's it going? Good.
That was a bend. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. So
Wait,
I have a
Do the microphone thing.
yeah.
Get it right in.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a little uncomfy,
Yeah. You're good.
just a tad. So I have like I don't think I'll be able to get to it all at all. And again, thank you for doing this. This has been fantastic. That you give people the opportunity to do this, and thank you for Travis. So the first thing I guess is to piggyback off of the
Individual
few
analysis.
conversations you just had.
More.
I don't want to keep going and beating a dead horse, but because that's kind of how it's probably going to feel. But I feel like you have this very opinionated, polarized view of, I'd say, the extreme right. And I think you group the extreme right in with kind of the right, because there's a lot of, at least from my conversation circles, and they're not very active online, and I think maybe what you view and what you see is the active right community that's online, which is absolutely unhinged, and it's absolutely crazy. But I think there's also a lot of people out there that voted for Trump that see a lot of the things that he's done, and they do not speak up as much as they should, and I think that they should. But the few conversations that I've had with people that did vote for him, I am the one included, to where it's, okay, well, the tariffs are a bit crazy, let's dial back, or, okay, well, these maybe the deportations is another thing, along with the fact of the pardoning of the January 6ers. And you
100%,
also said
bud.
something earlier about the Jan 6ers, to where you said that nobody on the right spoke up. Are you
Think it's
just
good enough.
are you saying like the right influencers, or are you just saying?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. Because I'm like, there were people that spoke up, but it's just not anybody who's in the prevalent media, which is again the issue. So yeah, that's my big issue. But I guess my first
You
question.
know the differences between somebody who adamantly votes for Trump and somebody who reluctantly votes for Trump?
What?
There's none.
I
I think that's the issue. Is there's like I'll find a lot of these people who are like, oh, I don't know, I don't fully support it. Like at the end of the day, a vote is a vote.
that
It all gets counted up the same
wishy-washy
way.
shit is so
I mean, it doesn't
fucking
really matter if he still has support.
gross.
Like Donald Trump is an
Ugh.
extremely unhinged, like quasi-fascist, like in
I don't get it. I gotta think for a moment here. But I don't get that part. The wishy-washy, wish-whoosher of, you know, not standing for this shit. Like, I feel like my political beliefs are pretty strong. I try and fight my bias on them. Obviously, there's bias, and it's unavoidable. I try to fight that sort of a thing. But still, those things are locked in. Some of those things are just fucking good luck making any movement there. And then for everybody that supports Donald Trump, it is they don't have any of that. Zero. They will shapeshift, maneuver over and over.
unbelievable person, and I can't imagine what it would be like to even reluctantly vote for somebody like that. Like something is so broken, I think, with the concept of America right now, if that's the case. But so I don't know when people are like, well, it's not like the most extremist supporters of this guy who, is extorting law firms all over the country and openly bragging about it, is installing terrorists on islands that are only inhabited by penguins, is deporting people without due process gleefully in the middle of the night, has hired an anti-vaxxer as the head of the agency. Like, I mean, there's like a billion different things you're going to say. And it's like, well, yeah, but Kamala was woke.
Well, I don't think that's the only issue. I think there was a lot of people's issue to where the issue with Kamala that at least I heard was that there wasn't like a consensus around her to put her as the primary. There was not a primary for her. She just kind of was the front runner, just suddenly.
Yeah, but nobody believes that. Nobody actually cared about that.
I don't know about nobody. I think
They
nobody.
didn't, because if they did, because find me any of these people, and I want to see how much they were tweeting about the fact that Donald Trump refused to debate any of the other primary challengers.
Well, that's again where my issue comes in, where they weren't active online. They just had an opinion, and they, so that's
just showing up anywhere in the media, anywhere. Then I mean,
that's I agree with you there, where they need to make their voice heard, and they need to actively be active online, but.
Or anywhere. It doesn't have to be online. It could be in the media. It could be a politician.
Well, exactly. Yeah, but
why can't you? But you know why you can't do that, though, right? It's because the Trumples will destroy you.
I don't. Well, yeah, they'll try. Yeah, I agree with that. I couldn't say that they'll destroy you because a lot of them are delusional.
So I mean that you won't have a political career anymore. You'll be gone, right? Trump will primary you. You'll get kicked out of office. Like they will want to vote for you, and
especially if you're a politician. Yeah.
Yeah, like there are no the never Trump Republicans are just retirees.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Agreed. A lot of the people that I know still think that he won the 2020 election, which I don't quite understand. But so I guess
that's like fucking insane, right?
Yes. No, I agree, 100%. But
but like you're just like casually dropping what would be the most unbelievable conspiracy in the history of all of governments across the planet for all of time.
I agree.
That election was rigged.
Yeah. But there's also people on the left that I've also seen in my Facebook, groups, or even just Facebook friends that I have that are just now saying that the 2024 election must have been rigged because there's no way Trump should have won.
Yeah, but do you know who's not saying that? Kamala Harris.
I agree.
Democratic leadership.
No, I agree.
And you know who is saying it on the right side? Donald Trump.
I know, I agree.
So it's like a different world, and every single I think there was one cabinet person who acknowledged that question and said that Donald Trump had lost the 2020 election.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think everybody else talked around it.
They did, yeah, including J.D. Vance.
That's kind of crazy that the world's leadership in democracy currently has a president that doesn't believe in the outcome of the last election he lost.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And it's a big problem too that most MAGA Republicans are the same way. But I do have another question that's like not relating to any of this. I wanted to know your opinion on, and I think I know it, but your opinion on the deportation of what's his name, Kilmar, I believe.
I I haven't
Frank,
dug as much
you
into
are
the
so
legal stuff on that.
fucking.
I think
annoying
ideologically I'm
guy.
opposed to it. I think
Just
legally
chill.
I'm opposed to it. But it gets into weird kind of like foreign policy territory, or how much
Yeah.
you want to dig into that?
It's well, I was digging through the legal process of everything that was going on with him, so I could just go very briefly into it.
So I guess a quick thing. The reason why I have an issue with it is traditionally, prior to maybe Al Qaeda, I guess, when we thought of like terrorist organizations, you think of these like small groups that are non-state actors typically. It starts to get really weird when a terrorist organization also happens to be like the government or administrator to a region. Now for ISIS, it was kind of different because they took over parts of countries that were still controlled by other people. But like, would you say like the Taliban, would you consider that like a terrorist group? I actually don't know if the U.S. is. I don't think they do. But like, but we would think of them as kind of a terrorist group.
Yeah.
But it's also like they're the government in Afghanistan, right?
Yeah.
And so like, let's say that you want to protest, and you want to support for Hamas. I mean, like, Hamas is the government of the Gaza Strip. So are we basically just saying for every single person here with a green card or a visa, you can no longer protest on support of or on behalf of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip because?
All right, hold on one second. Next step, just to move here a little bit forward with our little friend here. Well, actually, it did catch up. What we're going to do is hopefully take characters like this guy right here and multiple others of which we will create. Hopefully they'll be. I'm a little bit worried about being able to individualize them too terribly much. Hopefully it'll work out okay. But what I want to do is I want to provide movement for this guy. So really my thought is kind of just normal ass human movement. One thing that I'm going to run with as far as my story goes is that this guy is definitely a robot. So his mouth is not just your regular ass mouth. Think of these right here as like gems, some sort of like gems, and they'll emanate light or change color as speaking. So we'll avoid the whole mouth movement piece. This is just gonna be a standard issued talking device for our robot friends that are going to be interacting. But anyway, what we have to do, I think, in order to essentially put this feller here into motion and everything and whatnot, is that we have to add bones. It's the best way that's what I think of. But really, they're just points of like movement. So yeah, I mean, like, add an elbow here so that when you tell this hand to bend, it's not going to bend in this spot. And in the middle where, that's not a normal bend, we'll just pretend that this robot has like joints and, or not joints, but humans have joints. The robot would have like hinges or something. I don't know. But we've got to introduce those hinges into our figure here. And hopefully, given those hinges, we'll be able to add emotion. So I'm going to read this real quick just so that hopefully I can put it into my brain. This is AI's description of it. So what I asked is, I have a group of mesh objects that I've put together into a robot. I would like to make animations with this robot using Blender. I believe that I have to add some kind of bones or reference points for movement. Can you explain what I'm trying to say? And then give me instructions on how to construct this bone system. And it says, you are exactly right. What you're referencing is called rigging. So what we're trying to do is rig this guy. So it's the process of adding a skeleton made of bones, armature, to your model so you can animate it easily like a puppet. Let me explain it clearly, then walk you through the steps. What you're trying to do, you've built a robot out of multiple mesh parts. To animate it, like arms moving, you need to build an armature, which is a rig or a skeleton. Each bone controls a part of your robot, like upper arm, forearm, leg. Once that armature is built and connected to the mesh object, you can animate just the bones and the mesh parts will follow. Okay. So that's what we're trying to do here. So now I have a step-by-step how to rig it up. So I gotta add armature, skeleton, object mode, single bone. Okay, so really that's how this is gonna go. Yeah, I'm just gonna be following steps, hopefully. Dick. Add bones. And they're giving this guy some move of function, I suppose. Then maybe we could put him into motion. And I don't think it'll... Ow! Fucker! Stop! Dick? Shit hurts, brother. Yeah, you're okay. Just don't fucking hurt me. So, yeah, that's pretty fucking cool, because I think that, I mean, they're robots. They're going to be slightly individualized, I guess, if you will. Hopefully, based on the naming of what I'm going to name them, they will be... Well, this guy's name is Donovan Drumpf, so, I mean, who do you think that is? And then based off of this guy, you should be able to make him smaller, make certain parts bigger, make them smaller, change the colors, change the eyes, change the hair, and hopefully, that'll all be enough, and we'll start putting into motion. The one thing that really blows is that this bone structure, now that I'm thinking about it, and I have to add it to the baseline guy, because my baseline guy has no bones, so every new character that I try and make will also have no bones. But either way, old Donnie Drumpf here, he's going to be our guinea pig for that. But anyway, we'll play again, and I'm going to try and do that. So
It's related to Hamas, which is
Well, you're thinking of Khalil.
yeah. Wait,
Yeah.
wait, what did you say?
I was talking about Kilmer. Kilmar.
Oh fuck, Kilmar. Wait, is Kilmar Abrego Garcia?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
my bad. I thought you said
No, you're okay. Yeah, they're.
Oh, for the Abrego Garcia one, yeah, that seems like it was really bad. I'm opposed to that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what because he was here with I believe he was charged in 2019, and then he was allowed to stay, and then without due process, which is my biggest issue, was he was just shipped off.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'll have to pull out my phone for 1 second because
Okay.
all of them.
Well, I'm just kind of curious because we went over a few things that seem to be deeply troubling to me. I would say like any one of these things are an insanely troubling thing. You said you voted for Trump. I'm guessing this last election.
Yes.
What would you have possibly been afraid of from Kamala that you think like supersedes any of the stuff or the totality of stuff that's happened so far with Trump?
Well, honestly, to me, my biggest reason for not voting for Kamala, was to the exact reason that I stated earlier. And then I heard a lot of these.
Wait, what was the exact reason earlier?
The exact reason was that there was no primary for her. And the whole reason I
Wait, why would that have to do with whether or not you thought she would have been a better candidate?
Because it wasn't really that. It was more so the fact that I heard a lot of what are the problems, or I guess not problems, worries about Joe Biden from the right when he was running, that he would, ban guns or about like
Oh,
a lot
Jesus
of crazy
Christ,
things. And then I heard
man, what?
also a lot of crazy things about Donald Trump.
They're gonna
And I
bang
just
guns.
put them up against each other, and I'm like, well, these things could come true, or we might do okay.
Okay,
So-
but I'm like curious. If you look at the record, so Trump banned bump stocks.
Yeah.
Biden didn't take our guns.
Yes. Oh.
So I feel like it's 1 point for Biden.
Yes.
What was another issue that we were worried about between Biden and Trump? Biden got the infrastructure bill passed. Trump wanted to do that and wasn't able to. Foreign policy wise, I mean, we were involved arguably with less stuff. There was the Ukraine stuff and there was the Gaza stuff. But we exited Afghanistan, even if it was sloppy. We exited Afghanistan. We weren't involved in the Yemen stuff anymore. We weren't involved in anything in Syria, basically. I'm just curious, like, what was the thing? If you look at the 4 years of each, where do we give Trump points on? Where we're like, oh, I would rather have 4 more years of Trump than 4 more years of a Biden-esque.
Well, because I think I was gonna say that's kind of a hard question. It's not really, because a lot of things that people give Trump credit for, he kind of walked into from the previous administration. So that's where I'm like, I can't really give him the credit for those things. That because Obama should be given credit for those things. So, you know, at the same time, people that said the same thing about Biden, which I don't really agree on. So again, that's where me casting a last minute vote, because that's basically what it was. I was just a very undecided voter. I would like to have a third party in, but again,
I'm still trying to figure out what was it about Trump. Where you're like, this guy's going to be the better one than Kamala. Like,
it wasn't
what one issue.
It wasn't really that. It was more so just that I weighed the negatives of both, and I'm like, I don't know what could be correct.
What were
And
the
I think-
negatives that you weighed for Kamala?
Well, again, the unrealized capital gains, which you said again, which I agree with
Never
you.
happened, right?
No, I agree with you. That would never happen.
Okay.
But that's where there were things with Trump where I did not at all anticipate that he would have this gigantic MAGA base behind him. I thought, okay, well, there's got to be someone who will hold him accountable. Where
Didn't he literally say that though coming in? Wasn't he saying, like, we saw J.D. Vance saying he would have supported him on January 20th. He would have voted for him.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We saw that he was trying to find people who were loyalists to him the whole time. You saw him try to fire everybody in the final weeks of his presidency last time. Did we just expect that he was going to fail at everything again, I guess?
I guess fail at that, yes. Not fail at everything, but fail at bringing all loyalists in, and maybe it would be a little evened off. Was at least my hope. Yeah, but it
just seems crazy to me that, like, we could have either voted for Kamala, and our biggest worry was an unrealized capital gains tax, which probably would have never happened. And I'm just making an assumption here, but I'm guessing you don't have hundreds of millions of dollars in unrealized.
Oh no, not at all. It was just no.
So
I
it's
would
not even
love
wrong.
that. Yeah.
So there's that, and then for Donald Trump, it was like, there's the potential for all of this absolutely horrible, atrocious stuff to happen, but I don't think he'll pick the right people to make that happen. Like, I feel like if I was just looking at both of these candidates without knowing anything about America or elections or whatever, and somebody's like, well, on this side, you got a candidate who might do maybe a bad thing, but probably not. And then this other guy, he could actually be Hitler 2.0, but he probably won't be because you'll have people around him that'll stop him from doing that. This seems like an easy choice. So I'm trying to figure out what is driving us away from one or towards the other.
It's mainly just, I guess, the driving factor was just the hope behind it. So there just the hope of that
what?
that wouldn't happen.
Well, no,
That's
but
it.
what would happen? It was a hope that he would just show up and die, or what is like the hope?
No.
What are we hoping that would happen?
No. The I guess what I was hoping what would happen was the economy would continue to build in a better way. Not that we would
continue.
because it was building.
Yeah, under
Yes,
Biden.
yes, it was. I agree with that.
So why wouldn't we choose a guy that was building it? Wouldn't that make more sense?
Because there were certain things that that Trump ran on that I agreed on, like deportation. I agreed on that, not how extreme that he's putting it out at all. But I agreed on which again, it's not like Biden didn't deport anybody. Biden was actively deporting people. But again, I would like to end another one. Well, one of my questions kind of goes into this was I would like to end the cash and release at some point. I don't know how that would even work or happen, or what we would put in place of that, because it would have to be something.
Sure.
But
Okay, like here's something that bothers me. So you say you don't even know how that would work. The reason why you don't is because nobody actually talks about any of it.
no, I
They talk about like getting rid of things or like, destroying our immigration policy or whatever. It's like, well, what are we going to replace it with? Like, what's an actual solution?
Well,
And I think that's an issue is that, like, there was a border bill. For whatever reason, Republicans decided they didn't like it, even though it was a Republican bill for helping border stuff that Trump didn't want passed at the end of Biden's term. Well, now are we past 100 days yet for this term? We still have no legislation relating to the wall at all. Nothing related to the border. Nothing related to asylum. Like, really, we have nothing. There's no legislation at all, I guess. So, like, what do we? What happened? Do we not care about that, or?
It's not. I guess yeah, because it's like, I mean, not me, but Trump, yes. And that's again where one of my biggest issues comes in. Is that
well, but then I'm also trying to figure out this too, because this is so hard. So people get mad at me, and this sounds mean, and I don't mean to sound mean, but like sometimes I feel like people don't have the real problem. They just talk about things that they think they have problems with because the media's told them they have problems with. Okay. Now I don't know. I'll be honest. Okay, because the only thing I know about Michigan is you guys cheated in every football game. Okay, against Nebraska. All right. Fuck Michigan. And Alabama. The thing I guess I'm perplexed by is that two things that you're voting for are voting against is you're voting against unrealized capital gains tax, which I'm guessing you don't have millions of, and then you're voting against border illegal immigrant stuff. Is Michigan a popular destination for a ton of?
no.
It seems like a far way to try. I'm like, what is actually going on here? Now, if you would have told me, I think that I think we could have expanded our Great Lakes by taking over, fucking Toronto or something. Okay, well, I kind of get it. You're closer here. We're closer to the Canadian border. Makes sense.
No.
Little little dictatorship.
Yeah, sorry. And then I think you might go so. But so yeah, can you see from my side how like that's like really confusing to me as I'm trying to figure out what do we vote? Because like everything you've described so far, I could kind of get if you were like, so I just didn't vote. I stayed home and I was like, fuck it. But you were driven to the polls to go and vote for Trump. And was it really illegal immigration and unrealized capital gains when you were at the polling place? You were just like these fucking.
Well, no, because it was mainly that I was undecided up until election day, and even on election day I was still undecided. It wasn't something that I was like, okay, I'm going to vote for Trump. Most of my friends, I told them running up to the election, there's no way I'm voting for Trump. But then I was trying to see who would be in place for Biden. I didn't want to vote for Biden. I wanted to vote for somebody else who I thought was more coherent at the time than Biden. And that's what I was hoping for. And I saw Kamala get put up. And I'm like, okay, but I don't like the way she was put up. On top of that, she's running off of a lot of things that kind of Biden ran off of. And I just kind of feel like it's going to be a copy and paste. And I would like somebody to have more of a, not that Trump didn't do that from his first term to his second term, but it's more so of I was still undecided at the polling. So I wrote at this point, I would say that I slightly regret it. But yeah, I voted for Trump. And that there was a lot of things that I went into with that. And I was like, okay, well, hopefully the best outcome comes from this. And that's, if anything, I'm not in control of what happens. So I would like for the best outcome to come.
Any final thoughts?
I don't know
Well, yeah. I mean, I appreciate the talk. Yeah.
No,
Cool.
I would like to.
Thanks a lot, Josh. Everyone, big round of applause.
I didn't like it. I didn't like
how's it
that
going?
talk. I thought
Great,
that
yeah,
was a
let me do it.
waste.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Nice and close to the mic. Thank you.
Best.
Yep.
Sorry. So I wasn't really planning on debating today, but I can't help myself but yap. And when I saw that someone left, I figured I might try to take my chance.
Okay.
So I'm pretty dyed blue. I'm a big fan. I'm a Democrat fan. I voted Biden and then voted Kamala. But I think there's one policy that Trump and his team has been espousing and implementing that I think actually is good in the long term. And I think that you on your stream, you've been a little myopic regarding this topic. So what I'm speaking about specifically is tariffs, particularly against China, but more generally to try to bring manufacturing home. Now, I don't think these tariffs are going to work because they're all basically like EO and they're going to be gone in 4 years. But America doesn't have any manufacturing capacity anymore. And if a war goes hot, a lot of analysts surveyed by the Atlantic Council increasingly do believe in the next 10 or 20 years we might have some kind of World War III scenario. I don't think America is going to be up to the task of industrializing to fight a belligerent China, bloc.
No.
I think that there might be arguments for tariffing certain sectors. If you're talking about national security stuff, Donald Trump is not targeting certain sectors. There are a lot of actions you could take as a country to become safer if national security is what you are interested in, like, for instance, shoring up your allies or building stronger relations with your neighbors. Donald Trump has nuked both of those. And Europe is turning their back on us, and Mexico and Canada, our other two largest trading partners, no longer trust us. I don't think that Donald Trump is instilling any amount of confidence in investment in domestic manufacturing because these tariffs are changing so much. CapEx, it takes a long time to build a factory and to invest in a place and to have it up and running. And even if you would at this point, why bother building in the United States when you can't ship to any other country now because everybody's going to be tariffing you because of counter tariffs? So if there was ever an argument for revitalizing or for bringing some kind of national security to the United States, I think Donald Trump is not. He's taken every single step in the opposite direction of that. If you want to talk about, revitalizing manufacturing, I mean, the largest manufacturer in the world of goods is China, and the second largest is the United States. We manufacture a lot of stuff here. People talk about the destruction of manufacturing, but under Joe Biden, we reinvested a ton and it was growing pretty significantly. Nothing that Donald Trump is doing, and nobody is saying this, nobody is agreeing that anything he's doing is instilling any kind of confidence in people making investments into manufacturing here in the United States. So if those are things that you're concerned about, honestly, doing nothing would have been better than what Trump is doing now.
And the tariff policy. Yeah, and absolutely. I think that if we're unable to maintain a coherent tariff policy going forward, I think it will crash and burn. And I think even that's probably the most likely scenario. I think the European Union as a whole is slightly beating us out in comparison to China, but because the European Union no longer has or is beginning to distance themselves from the United States, they've actually implemented a $900 billion rearmament policy, which I think is a much bigger step up in ensuring European defense.
Yeah, but that hurts our defense, right?
It hurts our defense in what way?
Well, now they're not buying stuff from us, so our military-industrial complex is hurt. We're no longer going to be coordinating with them the same way that we would have when we do NATO exercises. So our ability to coordinate warfare on a global scale is going to be hurt. Our ability to work with people in an intelligence capacity, like we do with Five Eyes, is going to be hurt. So our ability to ward off threats and see stuff like that is going to be hurt. Our ability to rely on people to come and help us if we did get invaded or if something would happen to us is going to be hurt. That hurts us in every single way. It's kind of like saying our household is running out of money, but my 11-year-old child went out and got a job, and I think it's going to help us a lot. And I think in that case, something's probably not working.
Yeah, absolutely. Whoa. So I think my concern would be...
and on top of all that, just one more thing. Trump is asking for a $150 billion increase in the Pentagon. So what? If Europe is stepping up so much, then why do we have to ask for even more of a budget increase on our end for our own military stuff? None of it makes sense, I think.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that Donald Trump's tariff policy as it currently stands, I don't think really any of his policies are super sensible. But I feel like he's introduced the idea of stronger tariffs, and especially against China. I hope a number of them stick.
I can introduce the idea of parachutes by pushing somebody off a building, but that doesn't make it a good idea.
Right.
It's none of the goals I think you set out all of them are being pushed against now, right? The United States is probably less secure right now. Would you agree with that? If we are less coordinating with Europe, if less people are buying stuff from us, I think some people have already canceled F-35 orders and stuff. So we're probably less secure. We're shipping and coordinating less militarily with people. We've made people to the north and south of us feel very uncomfortable because Donald Trump kept talking about taking over fucking parts of Canada or Greenland.
Yep. Okay.
So I feel like we're less secure now than we were before.
Well, so here's my problem, right? We have a number of really high-value military assets, but they take a very long time to build. And I think the war in Ukraine we've seen, they can be defeated by mass-produced, low-tech, en masse, for instance, the FPV, drone assaults.
So the drone assaults are really good at defeating, no offense, but Ukrainian soldiers that are doing battle from ditches. I don't think the drones could be defeating F-35s shooting missiles from 20 miles away. Yeah, they can beat Ukraine, but Ukraine's Air Force, I think, consists of the extras from the Top Gun 2 set right now. Again, no offense to Ukraine, but I don't think that war would be a model for what it would look like for the United States. I think that the Second Gulf War is probably a closer model to when the United States was to go to war with somebody we just...
Yeah, and I don't want to denigrate our current strike capacity, particularly in a principal territory attack by another nuclear power, right? I think nuclear
Deterrence?
Deterrence, thank you. Nuclear deterrence is still effective if there's going to be like attacks on principal territories. But I think that, it seems likely to me that we could lose significant parts of Asia, including large areas of our current manufacturing, to China. Vietnam isn't a nuclear power. I think it seems like they are actively planning to engage in combat with Taiwan and try to take that country over. I think generally, if we don't have a lot of this manufacturing back home, even for like more simple machines, I don't know how we're going to be able to an even larger like Chinese.
Sure, let's say that I bought all of that. Wasn't Biden's CHIPS Act a better idea?
Yeah, the CHIPS Act is critical.
So then it seems like even in that, if that was something we cared about, Biden would have been a better choice than Trump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't think. I think that Biden would have continued to pursue. Now, I would still vote for Biden today, but I think he would have continued to pursue, multilateral trade agreements with China as a manner of appeasing them and trying to bring them into the global, sort of trade alliance.
Well, and also probably it's also good for our consumers and our manufacturing and everything as well, right?
Barely stopped myself.
I think that China is good for manufacturing in that it's a massive skilled labor base. But I think that the Chinese government is actively hostile to ours. Look at how effectively foreign agents utilizing social media, TikTok, and every other social media platform, sourced from places like Russia and China, have been at destroying the American ideological landscape.
Yeah, I think it's a big problem. But right now, you have one political party, and you can't even say the R word around them without them screeching Russiagate and totally shutting their brains off and being unwilling to even engage in that conversation. So, the idea that Russia and China are trying to influence us on our social media, okay, well, let's go ahead and tariff every single country on the planet by 90%. That's just an unhinged response, and it's probably not getting us any further to any of those goals. One of the big issues I have is that it's just, I feel like Trump swings with a sledgehammer, and then people will look at the shattered pieces of whatever is left on the ground and go oh, well, that thing was kind of messed up before, right? And it's yeah, but Jesus Christ. It's just, this isn't effectively combating anything. It's not effectively moving us into any positive direction. I feel like we're getting worse on all of our goals. Manufacturing is going to be worse in the United States. Every single manufacturer has said so. The security is going to be worse in the United States. The fact that people are canceling orders and we're going to be working less with other countries seems to further that. If we were worried about places like Taiwan getting taken over, well, if China looks at how we are treating Ukraine and Russia, why wouldn't they? I'm pretty sure Trump is, I don't know if Trump has said we wouldn't do anything in Taiwan. I feel like he's made statements almost to that effect. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like if we did care about any of these things, Trump is basically the worst guy for the job. Right.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts there, Mr. McDowell?
Absolutely. Yeah. No. And so generally, I do think I agree with you. However, I don't think that anyone else would be batshit crazy enough to implement or normalize the idea of wide-ranging and large tariffs to protect what we would consider to be low-level or crappy manufacturing jobs. I agree that they're low-level and crappy, but I am worried in a future 20 or 30 years from now that we might be fighting, a large power block that has taken over a large amount of even the foreign, basic parts manufacturer that we're currently utilizing. And if they decide to just stop trade with us and become the global hegemon themselves, we're not going to be able to stop them.
Yeah, but I guess, because I have to ask, just let's assume that these manufacturing jobs come back. Who's going to work them? Because our unemployment is 4.5% right now.
Yeah.
We also want to deport 20 million illegal immigrants that are also working in the United States.
I think my contest, or
this way,
what I would contest there is that it's actually relatively easy to permanently disable a large number of the modern conveniences that we appreciate. Satellites, especially United States satellites, China has mixed their commercial satellites with military use, but a lot of them can be lasered down. That technology currently exists and has been tested. Internet could be cut. If China wanted to hold the world hostage right now, I think they would have a pretty good shot at doing it. So what I would say is that, yeah, no one wants to work those jobs. They suck, and we don't have the capacity currently. But if we aren't prepared for a world in that state, I think that we could wind up in a situation where a large amount of our service economy just kind of gets shuttered, because the technology has been, the global internet's been sliced. Our satellites are no longer available. We lose a lot of those. conveniences of modernity.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I guess I would just say that I think that if this is a thing we were legitimately and genuinely concerned about, what we would be doing is we'd be trying to build up like Mexico or South America or our European partners more so that they have a larger capacity for that type of manufacturing instead, rather than nuking half of our economy in the hopes that somehow we're going to be outcompeting the 2 billion Chinese people at making widgets. But I mean, that's, but
yeah, that's just how it is. Okay.
All right, everyone.
Oh, no.
Mr.
Thanks so
McDowell,
Yeah, thanks,
big round of applause.
Oh,
just
no.
And keep it going for Destiny. Well, Stephen, thanks so much for doing this. I think everyone really enjoyed this tonight. Yeah, you guys like this format? Yeah. And everyone on YouTube, there will be in our Discord server, so head over there, say hello. There will be a bunch of rooms open up where you guys can discuss the event here tonight. The easiest way to get there, go to youtube.com/Pangburn, and our link to our Discord server is there. We're going to give Stephen a 5 to 10 minute break here, and then we'll do some poster signing, and I hope you guys join us for that. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a real pleasure to be in this room with you guys. So thank you.
right.
Yeah.
Why are we doing
After
this?
all. Thanks, Steph. What?
You and I are predetermined nonsense, and that's okay.
What?
You and I have predetermined consequence, and that's okay. And that's okay.
What's going on? Okay. Before we do this,
You and I are locked into our destiny, and that's okay.
it's time to freeze.
And that's okay.
Oh.
You gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you want.
Oh, fuck no. Oh, they're all connected. Oh.
Predetermined nonsense. Have predetermined consequence.
Fucking bitch. Really? We gotta do that?
That's okay.
Very fucking screwed. Nah. It's kind of pissing me off, to be honest with you. So, no. That was alright, though. if I would want to see that. What else we got? Come on, YouTube. This is only a half hour. It's a debate. Sam Cedar and 3 weeks ago, though, I don't really care for Sam Cedar too much. Ugh, come on. Come on, dude. Oh, you're standing on my nipple. God, I've been trying to think of things that I wanted to get after and listen to as well, and I just got nothing that is really even coming to mind at all. So, Sam Harris kind of puts me to sleep, but
I'm here with Scott Barry Kaufman. Scott, thanks for joining me.
I don't know what the fuck.
Sam, so great to be here again. 5 years later.
Is that what it is? 5 years?
Yeah, we talked like right when the pandemic started.
Right. Did we know there was a pandemic at the time? Was that?
Yeah. And you asked me to make predictions.
What did you predict? Do you remember anything?
Yeah. Okay. I think something I said is, we're gonna come out stronger from this. We're gonna come out of the pandemic and with a newfound sense of appreciation for life. I think it's something like that.
How's that holding up? That prediction?
For some people, I think that is true, and for some people, it's far worse. But that's unpandemic related.
Shoulder.
Don't you think, at the societal level, we're much weaker? I mean, my sense is that we're much less prepared for the next pandemic than we would otherwise be.
So
in terms of
politically,
in terms of being prepared, that's a really good point. But I also think, we sort of forget what it was like to be in the pandemic. I mean, this is like anything. It's like if you get a bad headache, you're like, all you want is to not have the headache, and you're like, forevermore, the rest of my life, I'll be so appreciative that I don't have the headache. And then, about 30 seconds after you're recovered, you forgot what it was like to have that. It's not like you live up to that promise,
Yeah. We can put that in the stoicism bucket, which it relates to a lot of your work. Actually, I mean, you do a lot of work on emotional resilience and well-being, and we should remind people you have a book that just came out this week titled "Rise Above," which goes into the problems of seeing oneself as a victim, and the kind of durable bases for self-esteem, and how we navigate the various personality quirks of narcissism and neuroticism. And I want to get into all that. But before we do, you just moved back to New York and have begun teaching at Columbia again. Have you started teaching yet?
No, I'm started preparing for the fall semester, but I don't start till September.
So that Columbia has been very much in the news, being in the crosshairs of the Trump administration, and it was the epicenter of a lot of the protests around the war in Gaza. What's your? I mean, I know you kind of just got back, but do you have a sense of what campus life is like now?
For most students, it's business as usual. I think it's very easy to watch the news and to catastrophize the whole school and say, I hear a lot from parents, I'm never sending my son or daughter to Columbia. When you're actually in it, as I've been in it, I taught last year, first semester. It's pretty calm once you're in it. You know, once you're teaching, the students are
Can't
great.
select that one. Fuck.
You may step outside and see, you know, a group of 10,
Oh
20 students who are very
no!
loud.
Why?
But I just need to emphasize it's the strong minority of students. I mean, a big part of my book as well is to limit catastrophizing, limit, you know, lots of cognitive distortions, and I do fear the media fuels into a lot of this, where, you know, suddenly we should be fearful of Columbia or of Columbia students, and that's really not the normal business as everyday business.
So the sense of victimhood. I mean, many people feel that has been amplified in this younger generation, maybe 2 generations, culturally in the West, in the most prosperous societies. You know, especially in America, there's a sense that our the sense of what constitutes trauma has been amplified to the point where basically everyone of a certain age views themselves somewhere, you know, in recovery from something awful, and that something awful could be, you know, almost homeopathic in its level of dilution. Do you think we are witnessing a culture of victimhood that needs a course correction? I mean, and how much of that is just the catastrophizing of you know, media reports about culture?
Well, I've never quite put it this way, but I do think we're living in a victimhood pandemic. There, I just coined that phrase. So yeah, I do think there's something going on in our culture where it's almost like everyone feels like they need to one up each other. Everyone needs to compete for victimhood. We're living the age of the victimhood Olympics. And I think that implicit in that is this assumption that there can only be one victim, and everyone's competing for this one spot to get all that attention, to get all those resources. There is a large psychology base, and Kurt Gray has done some really good research on this, called moral typecasting. And psychologically, if you're perceived as the victim, you're perceived as an angel who can never do anything wrong. And if you're perceived as the perpetrator, you can't do anything right. And so, for good reason, you know, it's a very coveted spot to be perceived as the victim.
It didn't used to be the case, though. I mean, when did this flip? It used to be that you would want to diminish. I mean, certainly there's no sense of higher status accruing to somebody who's a victim. I mean, most people would want to hide whatever wounds they think they're carrying around at a certain point. When did that flip culturally?
No one knows the exact answer to that question, but people like Jonathan Haidt and Gene Twenge have done some analyses to know some trends in the last 7 years, I would say. You know, you're right. In my youth, when you were submitting college essays, you were rewarded for talking about how you've overcome your challenges and your adversities. Now, college essays, they're all competing to just have the best sob story in order to get into the college. That's simply what's rewarded, not overcoming it.
Interesting. Well, so what is the what's the alternative here? I mean, in your book, you talk about a healthy sense of vulnerability. I mean, you're not asking people to deny their you know, the slings and arrows they've encountered in life, and just keep calm and carry on. There's something. What is the balance here? I mean, maybe this is the point to introduce your transformation of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which you've changed from a pyramid to a sailboat where the hull is the basic needs of safety, connection, and self-esteem, and the sail is exploration, love, and purpose. I mean, we'll probably cover some of those, but I guess I'm thinking of self-esteem in this connection. I mean, what is the healthy basis of self-esteem?
Really, really insightful. In a lot of ways, this book is a double clicking or a zoom in on Transcend. Transcend was so focused on the higher self, and I was like, you know what, we need to return to fundamentals, because I don't think most people are there yet. Most people are not there right now. Let's double click on the boat, not the sail, but the basic needs of the boat, which are the need for connection, the need for self-esteem, and the need for safety. When those three needs are thwarted, they kind of operate as a system.
Bones need to
You
connect.
can spiral downward quite quickly if one of the three, and it'll pull down the other two. So if your need for connection is not satisfied to an adequate level, your self-esteem will take a hit. If your safety is not satisfied, your connection and your self-esteem. So it's all a system. So in a lot of ways, this new book really is a double clicking on that and the mindsets that can take us away from that. But then I do talk about the mindsets that are productive, and I call it the empowerment mindset.
So if in terms of thinking about self-esteem, what is its healthy basis? If you met somebody who's in their mid-20s, and you had a sense that that they had a leaky, they had a major hole in the hull of the boat, and their self-esteem needed to be shored up. Obviously, there's a delusional version of self-esteem, right? There's this thoughts about oneself that can fail to track one's actual place in the world and the health of one's relationships, etc.
Okay.
I mean, so presumably there's you want some reality testing, which is to say you require some reasons to feel good about your place in the world. You can't just be psychotically enthusiastic about how good things are going. How do you recommend that someone dig their way out of that hole if a lack of self-esteem is really the kind of the point of the crisis?
Yeah, to answer that question, I just want to just take a bit of a bird's eye view for a quick second and say that when we often think of a victim, you're being victimized, we think about you being victimized by external circumstances. And actually, part one of my book are all the different ways we are victim to ourselves.
I don't think that fucking
And
matters
one
at all,
way is you can be a victim to your
goddamn it, I don't think
self-esteem.
that did
And you can become a victim to your self-esteem
son of a
when
bitchin'
you
fucking
have
ass
to
thing. I don't
always
know.
feel good about yourself. I try to challenge the notion that you always have to feel good about yourself. And I argue, I have a whole section called the benefits of feeling bad about yourself. There is this notion that you should always feel good about yourself no matter what you do in this world. And no, we need to take accountability. We need to sometimes we need to have a reality monitoring, like accurate reality checking. Are we coming across as a valued social partner? Are we, there are evolutionarily evolved mechanisms that cause us to not feel good about ourselves when we act in certain ways or when we're getting certain feedback. And that is valuable information. There's a reason why that sociometer evolved, as Mark Leary, the social psychologist, called it, the sociometer. There's a reason why it evolved, and we should be accurately tracking our sociometer and work toward, of course, self-compassion and mindful awareness, a lot of really great stuff you talk about in your app and in your own work as well. But that's all separate from having an accurate assessment. If your sociometer is broken, you can be a psychopath who doesn't care at all about your effects on the others or the world or how you're coming across, and yet you're continually set at that high self-esteem switch, and that's not healthy.
So then what accounts, in your view, for the success of some prominent psychopaths, or at least psychopath-adjacent people that we might name? I mean, there are people who come readily to mind now, all too often, who seem to have a sociometer that is never moves. It's always pointing toward the fact that they are the increasingly triumphant center of the universe. How do these people succeed in a social context that would seem to want to crush that attitude in most people?
I knew you'd ask the good questions today. I actually told a bunch of people at my party last night. I was like, I'm talking to Sam Harris tomorrow. I know he's going to ask me good questions. First of all, how do you define the word success? I think in a lot of ways, the success of certain people might not be how you define success. Like, you might not be willing to make a certain trade-off. But you're right. There's undeniable achievement, societal achievement among lots of people who probably are high on the psychopathy spectrum. And you can get ahead in a lot of ways by disregarding the needs of others. First of all, people are attracted to narcissists, to grandiose narcissists. People want to be in their orbit because, well, if you're winning, quote winning, that's very attractive to a lot of people who aren't winning. You know, to be able to hitch your whatever, to hitch your wagon. Or
All right, pause here for 1 second. I just gotta think clearly and read this right now because what I'm running into is so think of our robot guy here as a big amorphous goo. Okay? He's got goo. And in order to give this fucker instruction and stuff like that, as far as being able to move, do things, this, that, whatever it is that you want to call it, we must give it this skeletal structure or bones. And what I'm attempting to do right now is connect this bone here to this mesh is what it's called on the outside, this piece here. It's telling me to go into pose mode and connect to this, but it doesn't seem to let me select the mesh, so I'm not really sure what it means by that. I think it's confused because what seems like is happening to me is when I try and make a connection, it is connecting this bone to all the bones. All of them. So, I swear, are you going to make me go through and fucking do this shit? Browse data. Linked. Okay. So, I want to read. I asked it. What I said is, when I follow these steps, it seems like the bones are connected to each other across all parts of the object. As far as I could tell, my objective here is to connect the bones to the mesh. When I move into pose mode, it doesn't seem to give me the option to select the mesh. I can select the bone, but when I attempt to make a connection, it seems to try and connect the bones with the rest of the bones. And it says, you're very close. Sounds like you're running into two separate Blender quirks. One, in edit mode. Let's move to that quick. Bones connect to each other by default when you extrude them. That's why they're forming long chains across a robot. In edit mode, bones connect to each other by default when you extrude them. Okay. In pose mode, you can't select a mesh object directly unless you go back into object mode because the pose mode is limited to the armature only. Well, yes, tell me to fucking switch to object mode, asshole. Here's how to properly connect the mesh parts to bones. Step by step. Yeah, give it to me. Select your mesh object. Well, are we in fucking object mode? Yeah, okay. Boom. Mesh object selected. Shift. Select the armature. Okay. Now press Control Tab and go into pose mode. Well, I didn't fucking do any. Hey. Control Tab doesn't put me into pose mode. Oh, I was in pose mode. Fuck. Pose mode. Okay. Select the bone that should control the mesh. Now go. What? I'll go back to object mode. Control tab. Okay. Do the parent. Oh. Okay, we already got them selected. Control plus P. But she sure like the bone. This tells Blender. Okay. I gotta do that shit for all, like. Boom. Control tab, pose. Control tab. Control P. Bone. Pretty incredible. Fuck, where the buttons again? Control tab. Control tab. Control B. Bone. Control tab. Control tab. Control B. Bone. Oh god. No. No. Control tab. Control tab. Control B. Bone. Control tab, control tab, control. I think that this thing has me doing like some seriously fucking erotic shit. Like, I don't know. Control tab, control tab, control P. Bone. Control tab, control tab, control P, and then bone. I don't know why I can't select this bone. I can. Bitch. Control tab, control tab, control P, and bone. Control tab. Control tab. No. What the fuck you mean? Control tab. Control tab. Control P. Bone. Seems fucking dumb, but whatever. Alright, chill. Control tab. What the fuck? No, we're in edit mode, you bitch. What the fuck is going on? Stop. Stop, stop, stop. What's going on? Yo! Who wants this? Edit mode. Jesus. Object mode, actually. Object. Control tab. Control tab. What the fuck, man? What happened? What did I do? How'd I fuck it up? I don't want to select that shit. Get it out of here. Control tab. See, I hit shift tab or some shit. Shift tab just does snap. That shouldn't have fucked my whole world up. Yeah, I just don't know what the fuck is going on with that. What if we just go Control P? Fuck you. God, you suck. What even happened to... What happened to my pose mode? What the fuck? Where'd it go? Why did I have to do something that broke it? Oh, man. Help me. Fuck. Oh. Fuck with me. Don't you fuck with me at all. Control tab. Control tab. Control P. Phone. Control tab. Control tab. Control P. And it's a bone. Control tab. Control tab. Control P. Bone. Control tab. Control tab. Control P. Bone. I'm gonna play on this again because
whatever the expression is, to someone who's quote winning can make you feel like you're winning too. So you're I mean, if you're being honest with yourself, you're using their power and quote success for your own power and success. So that's a big part of the story for sure.
But what is charisma? I mean, how does charisma relate to narcissism? Do you think when you are noticing a kind of star quality in someone who kind of seizes the attention of a room, that is always drawing energy from narcissism, or is it a separate, entirely healthy channel?
Yeah, the construct of charisma is something that has interested me my whole life. But I think there's quiet charisma. I think there's different forms of charisma. I don't think it always has to take the form of a narcissistic persona. It often does because confidence is strongly tied to charisma. So, but you can have a hugely introverted, kind, gentle soul that is intensely confident and believing in their cause. Gandhi perhaps had a lot of charisma. You know, and so I do think there is a quiet kind of charisma, but I think something that is very common there is there tends to be a strong conviction where you don't tend to be a people pleaser. I do have a whole chapter in my book on being a victim to your people pleasing tendencies, and people with people pleasing tendencies tend to not come across as having a lot of charisma. So I think that's part of the story as well.
So as being someone disagreeable can be charismatic?
Yeah, it can. Yes, it absolutely can be a route to charisma, but it doesn't have to be. Obviously, doesn't have to be the route to charisma, but it can, because I think that it's the confidence thing there that really matters. It's like saying, do women really like narcissistic, psychopathic assholes? And my research has shown they don't, but they are attracted to confidence.
Mm.
And they often, discover later that, oh, there's confidence and there's also a narcissistic asshole behind that as well that I didn't want to sign up for.
So if you were going to create the most attractive candidate for whatever, for president, for boyfriend, for girlfriend, and you were going to just adjust these variables in the lab, how would you tweak the canonical? I mean, you could go for the big five personality traits. I mean, knowing what you know about human psychology and all of the personality characteristics that we have studied to whatever degree, whether it's the big five personality traits like the introversion extroversion spectrum, or openness to experience or conscientiousness, or anything else. I mean, what we've been talking about here, confidence or disagreeableness, etc. How would you set those dials for success in life and just for one's personal well-being, if you could get all the dials in hand?
Yeah, I don't like the question.
No?
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I think there's multiple paths. I feel like it's a trap. I
Well,
think
so I mean, that's the basis of the question. Is there one setting that you think is normative, like
No.
a character in Dungeons and Dragons that obviously is the most powerful?
Normative, yes, but what it should be the case, no. So I think we need to distinguish between a couple of things here. I think that the people who tend to rise to power are not the people that society, I think, needs in power. So I think, and unfortunately, a lot of people who would make really good, powerful people don't have that ambition. And so a big part of my research and dare I say activism as well is getting those people into positions of power who would make good leaders. I've made the distinction between dark triad leadership and light triad leadership. Dark triad leaders those are the ones that tend to dominate the leadership space. I mean, we did an analysis of the U.S. Senate, and we did analysis based on speeches, and we coded for malevolent traits as well as benevolent traits. We found that across the board, there's a huge preponderance of dark triad characteristics that even more so than light triad characters in the Senate. So I think that's a problem. And you find that the more dark triad leaders, the higher the score in dark triad. By the way, the dark triad stands for Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy. So it's
Right.
all three combined.
Actually, could you just double click on that and
Sure.
define each of those a little more? I mean, I
Yeah.
think people have a sense of what you mean by psychopathy and narcissism. You might have to spell out Machiavellianism, but say what you want about all three.
Yeah, the dark triad is a combination of those three personality characteristics that we all are somewhere on the spectrum for each of them: narcissism, grandiose narcissism, and we can talk later about vulnerable if you want. That's a different special kind. But grandiose narcissism, Machiavellianism, which is you're strategically manipulating things in the long term for some ultimate goal, selfish goal usually, and psychopathy, where you're prone to lying and deceit and thrill seeking. You actually get a thrill out of causing destruction. So the light triad incorporates faith in humanity. You believe humans are basically good, even though you see their flaws. Humanism, you tend to treat everyone with dignity, respect. And we call it Kantianism, which is not seeing people as a means to an end, but seeing people as an end to themselves. And yeah, we've just found over and over again that dark triad traits are just far more predominant in leadership positions than light triad traits. And I don't think it's logical to conclude that therefore that means that you need those traits in order to be a good leader. In fact, I think we've seen over and over again how those traits lead to downfalls of civilizations and societies.
Well, what you're calling light triad sounds more like a system of ideas or
Beliefs. Yep. Yep.
than it is psychological traits that somebody would naturally exhibit. I mean, maybe faith in humanity is some kind of positive social, pro-social emotional tone, but you tell me. But what you're talking about is Kantianism, for instance. I mean, that's realizing at some point in your life, that ethics entails not treating people as instruments toward an end, but as ends in themselves. That really is a kind of a that's kind of hard-won territory on the field of ideas and knowledge, more than it is a quality of somebody's personality that you might identify earlier in life.
See, that's the thing, is that I think these things are far more intertwined than we realize. Your worldview and your personality are so tightly connected. And I'll give you an example that maybe will give you an insight.
Yeah.
The dark triad is a worldview, and that worldview is at the extreme. Ted Bundy has a quote that we always use as the prime example of a dark triad way of thinking, and that's, well, what's one less person on the planet anyway?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a worldview. The light triad worldview is consistent with Anne Frank, who was, as the Nazis were trying to find her, her last days, she wrote in her journal, "I still believe, in spite of everything, that humans are truly good at heart."
Mm.
And so I don't know. I really think that our personality is colored by a certain worldview and belief in certain things. So we can go through every single personality trait to figure out what that is, but I do think those things are very tightly connected.
I guess it runs the other direction too. That your worldview is often fairly obviously anchored to your psychology and your personality. I mean, even if only it's the worldview you find attractive. I mean, I often see examples where it seems like a philosopher's philosophy is much more of an advertisement for their psychology than anything else, right? They're the kind of, I think I often catch people mistaking one of their psychological proclivities for a philosophical insight. I mean,
Can you give me an example?
I've certainly seen this in the case of people who who arrive at some very dark place where they think the life is no longer worth living, and they believe they have this as on the basis of some kind of philosophical epiphany, into rather than it's like clearly if they felt better, if they had a higher level of well-being, they wouldn't find this insight to be insightful, but because they feel so lousy, then it's really kind of a captivating kind of
Sam,
singularity of pessimism.
It's actually a really profound point. You hear people with bipolar disorder, they literally feel like they're two different people.
Mm.
And it's very confusing to wake up one day and feel everything you see around you is colored by darkness, and then the very next day you wake up and the world is literally your oyster.
Mm-hmm.
So that can be very confusing to people with certain psychological disorders. So the extent to which our emotions and our biochemicals and a lot of things that have nothing to do with the outside world can influence and color our personality that day is a huge. It's a really important point. I'm glad you made that.
So back to the dark triad for a moment. How do you view Trump on the landscape of psychology? That, I mean, is he a dark triad character, or do you feel like you don't know enough about him? You do. I know there's a taboo around. I mean, you're not a clinician, right? So you're not covered by the Goldwater rule, are you? You can diagnose freely from your armchair, can't you?
But Dr. Harris, if the word psychopathy is to mean, or let me just say this, Dr. Harris, if the word narcissism is to mean anything, Trump would have to be a narcissist. I mean, I've never seen a case study so clearly consistent with the research than that case study.
Well, I mean, he's obviously I think he's the greatest example of narcissism anyone can name, outside of the original Greek
grandiose
myth.
narcissism.
But what about the other two? Do you feel as confident in talking about the other two legs of the?
The Machiavellianism. See, I don't know how long-term thinker he is to give him enough credit to say he's high in Machiavellianism, to be honest. Because usually people who score high in Machiavellianism are very thoughtful people.
He's
like
more impulsive,
Machiavelli,
yeah.
the prince, like very strategic,
Yeah.
long term. I think we give Trump too much credit sometimes. Like, right now with the tariffs, like, oh, he has trust me, he has a plan, like a long term plan. I don't think he really has thought this through, in all honesty. So I don't know about that one. But then let's think about psychopathy. That's perhaps a more controversial one than the narcissism one. So let's think about psychopathy a second. So a real key characteristic of psychopathy is callousness. And I think we do see quite a high level of being very callous. But I think there's something interesting going on where you see in certain cases of the dark triad a fascinating interaction between their narcissism and their psychopathy, where the extent to which you view someone as connected to your own sense of self is the extent to which you show compassion to that person. And my thinking, my intuitive take, and I've never met the guy, is that if you're really loyal to him and you're really in his orbit, as in his own mind as part, just an extension of his self, of his own self, and he loves himself so much, he probably comes across as quite compassionate and caring towards those people, but can be quite callous. The farther you move away from that, the vice versa, the farther you move away from that, all the way to the end where he views you as someone who has caused him narcissistic injury, someone who is a threat to his own ego. I think he would have no problem being extraordinarily callous towards those people. So that's my nuanced answer.
So what is? I think we've been talking about grandiose narcissism. What is vulnerable narcissism?
That's my favorite one. Vulnerable narcissism is a topic I've studied that for well over a decade, and I've argued that the field of psychology needs to pay it more attention and to treat it as a personality trait, not just as a clinical thing, because it has deep implications for a person's functioning every day. And with grandiose narcissism, there's a form of entitlement there, which is I deserve special privileges because I am superior to others. I am the best. I'm inherently the best, so I deserve special privileges. Those who score high in vulnerable narcissism feel entitled to special privileges, not because they think they're the best, but because they view themselves as fragile, or I deserve special privileges because I've suffered more than anyone else.
And so, in what context do you see? I mean, is this giving energy to the victimhood culture we're talking about? It's like, is vulnerable narcissism being rewarded on TikTok or by other?
I'm trying to think of any of the narcissists that I've ever ran into. I'm like, oh, I guess I ain't privileged enough to be able to label anything like that, but when somebody comes off to me as that way, I mean, usually it's partially they're because they're perpetually a victim. I don't know if that really is separate than their grandiose attributes. I don't know.
Cultural trends.
Yes. I had Gene Twenge on my podcast. We talked about this. I asked because I thought that there's a trend that we're seeing in this generation, higher levels of vulnerable narcissism than we've ever seen before, and she agrees. She agrees that that is the case. It used to be grandiose narcissism. Like the prior generation was like, we're the best. Now it's we suffer more. We've suffered more than any other generation.
We all have Tourette syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe we should. Yeah. Should we remind people who Jean Twenge is, what her work is? Because Jonathan Haidt has referenced it a lot.
Yeah, she wrote a book called Generations, but she's done research for many years, multiple decades, on generational trends and what explains those generational trends. She's tracked the self-esteem movement looks like it morphed into a grandiose narcissism movement, but it looks like that has morphed into this vulnerable narcissism way of thinking, where you really do feel entitled to special privileges because of your suffering, and there also is a lot of hostility there, a lot of victim mindset kind of hostility where the finger is pointed at system. We're going to take down the systems. There's a great injustice everywhere. Everywhere there's injustice. Usually, when you double click on that, it's meaning there's an injustice against your own ego.
So is this expressed? I mean, when you're talking about a culture of victimhood, when I try to map that onto the political landscape, I more readily see it on the left. But it's
Victimhood.
Victimhood. But I think as I think for 2 seconds longer, I see it on the right too. It's just expressed differently. How do you map this victimhood, the victimhood pandemic onto our politics?
I think that's what you should call this episode, the victimhood pandemic. Yeah. Did you think about that already?
No, but I will take your direction there. It very likely will work.
So I think that's interesting because I think there's a victimhood mindset. We should distinguish between victimhood and a victim mindset. They're not necessarily the same thing. You can have been horribly victimized and have a victim mindset, or not have a victim mindset, but you can also not have been victimized and have a victim mindset. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of today. And I do think there are so many clear, obvious examples of it on the right. I would disagree with you and say that my perception is that it's more prominent on the right now. If you listen to virtually any far right podcast now, you listen to, now there are comedians that are opining that they know the answers to everything, and they're the victim to big pharma and powerful people. It's almost like everywhere I listen on the far right, I'm hearing victimhood. So I'm even curious, where are you seeing it on the left right now? Now I understand maybe 5 years ago, but like right now.
I'm thinking about the hangover we all had from identitarian politics and wokeness, and what Elon calls the woke mind virus. That seems to have been the correlation between being a credible claim of victimhood, and certainly even an intersectional claim of victimhood. Having enough victimology points would allow you to claim high status, and that the only truly guaranteed low status position there on that landscape would be to be the white cisgendered man who has no right to complain about anything, essentially.
So I want to say something that might trigger you, but
let's go. Let's watch. I'm ready.
I said that jokingly and lovingly, but I miss wokeness a little bit, and I want to unpack what I mean by that.
Like, what do you do? I am feeling I'm about wrapped up with this as well. Made some progress. Unfortunately, I don't get to save my last bit of progress because the bone structure here is obviously fucked. Like, they're all connected. What the fuck? So we can't have that. But I did save before adding the bone structure, I think so. We're going to be able, or I don't know if I did. I think I did add the bone structure, so we're going to have to get rid of it all. That's not a big thing. There's not that many bones. But I don't know what to do for sure with that. I think we might have to watch a thing with bones, because rather than doing this over and over, it seems like there is one specific point where it bends, kind of. It's that thicker end. It seems like that's where it's going to bend from, so that's going to have to be something that's kept in mind. Just certain other aspects. Thicker end is the joint. Is that maybe is correct? I don't know. But either way, a different rundown for the skeletal structure of our guy. And then actually, I mean, if you want to know what, I don't think it'll take us that long, because I mean, this guy, obviously, this shit is pissing me off so bad. object mode. All right. Forget the goddamn bones in the middle. All right. Shit, never mind. Hold on, we're gonna leave them. We don't have to. We don't have to. You won't see the bones. You won't see the bones. We'll get rid of them though. At least the ones that are obvious. All right. Are you kidding me? God, you suck. Good enough. All right, so yeah, I mean, I feel like if we named this guy, which his character name is going to be Donovan Drumpf, I'm pretty sure that you're going to be able to piece together who that guy is. I mean, obviously I'm biased. I didn't do great detail. Mostly it's the fucking hair that's going to tell you that, probably. Maybe the color scheme, because it's got not quite the right color scheme, but close representation. You got the color scheme, you got the similarity in name. I think that it'll do. I mean, having a legitly fucking awesome character is not necessarily the goal, just something that's representative and will work to a certain extent. Yeah, so the thing of it is, I think that it'll work. I think that we have enough here to create a emphasis and expression. I think we can. I do believe that we can do that. And then one of the big problems that I can see, that I absolutely big time see, is environments. So characters doing their thing in this, whatever you want to call it, gridded floor, grayed up, everything. This just, it's not okay. That's not the way we're gonna do it. It's not the way it's gonna work. We're gonna have to create whole ass things. And it'll be tough. It's gonna be more, but it'll be good. It'll be fun. We'll be able to figure it out. And honestly, today, just making a little bit of progress. It really didn't take much, and it's just very much appreciated. Holy cow! Tiny victories. We got one. The hair worked really fucking well. That's a huge victory. We got some color scheming. Couldn't even get that before. Huge victory. Got interesting eyeballs. Mild victory. I think that they're gonna work good. Be able to move them around inside of there. Yeah, but for now, that's gonna be that. We're gonna keep moving forward. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna get more characters, and then we're gonna put them into motion. And unfortunately, voice acting. I only got me. Might be able to use my cat a little bit, but that's unreliable. So, just me. I've got a few tools as well for noises, of which that will be used, and I'll do my best. I've been trying my Trump imitation lately, but I don't think it's gonna work, but hopefully it's good enough. Well, I don't know. We'll try it. It'll be fun. We're getting there. We're getting closer. Got a character. We can put bones. We gotta re-put the bones. Then we can put motion. And then once we have motion, We need environment. And we start checking boxes. Pretty soon, there will be motion. And then pretty soon, there will be audio. And then pretty soon, we'll be working the camera. And we're going to get there. We're going to try. We're going to see what we can do. Keep building, even if it's just little by little. So, if anybody is here, if anybody followed, if anybody did any of that sort of stuff, I mean, it's freaking awesome. Thank you. I don't think that anybody did, but I did get a little bumpity bumps, but I don't know where they come from. I don't know where the little noises come from. I gotta look around. I'll probably do that after, maybe. See if I can figure out what's going on with that. Alright.